The grumpy porch sitter. The wicker of Martha Bellwether's porch swing groaned a mournful tune beneath Arthur Abernathy's weight. He sat ramrod straight, a human statue carved from granite and disapproval, staring fixedly at the asphalt river flowing past her house. His brow, a landscape of deep furrows, seemed permanently etched with the map of a bad mood. He checked his watch again, a hefty gold timepiece he'd inherited from his father. Lily was late. Martha, bustling inside, glanced through the sheer curtains. Honestly, that poor man. He looked like he'd swallowed a lemon whole. She patted her graying hair, smoothed down her floral apron, and ventured out, a glass of iced tea clutched in her hand. The condensation beaded on the glass, a small, glittering constellation. "Afternoon, Arthur," she chirped, her voice a bright contrast to the somber atmosphere he exuded. "Hot enough for ya?" Arthur's eyes flickered towards her, a brief acknowledgement before returning to their vigil. "Afternoon, Martha." "Yes, it is." His voice was a low rumble, like distant thunder. She offered him the tea. "Here, thought you might like this. Homemade. Plenty of lemon." She gave a small, knowing smile, hoping he'd catch the jest. He took the glass, his fingers brushing hers briefly. They were surprisingly warm. "Thank you," he mumbled, taking a cautious sip. The tartness of the lemon seemed to momentarily loosen the lines around his mouth. Martha settled into the rocking chair beside the swing, its rhythmic creaks a counterpoint to the swing's groans. "Lily's running a bit behind today. Soccer practice, you know how it is. They run those kids ragged." Arthur grunted in response. He knew how it was. He remembered coaching Lily's mother's softball team, the endless drills, the dusty fields, the sweet taste of victory, and the bitter sting of defeat. Memories, once vibrant and comforting, now felt like shards of glass under his skin. A cardinal landed on the bird feeder hanging from the porch roof, its bright red plumage a splash of color against the muted greens and browns of the garden. Martha watched it, her head tilted slightly. "Beautiful birds, aren't they? Remind me of Christmas." Arthur replied, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon. Martha sighed inwardly. Engaging Arthur Abernathy in conversation was like trying to pull teeth from a badger. But she persevered. "We could use some rain. My hydrangeas are starting to wilt. They're just so dramatic, those hydrangeas. You'd think I was starving them." He finally turned his head, a flicker of something that might have been amusement in his eyes. "Hydrangeas usually are." It was a small victory, a tiny crack in the wall of his taciturnity. Martha pressed on, emboldened. "I was thinking of making a peach cobbler this evening. Have a surplus of peaches from Farmer McGregor's stand." Arthur remained silent, but he didn't turn away. He took another sip of his tea, the ice clinking softly against the glass. Martha could almost imagine a faint softening in his expression, a ghost of a smile playing around his lips. A battered blue sedan finally pulled up to the curb. Lily, her ponytail askew and her cheeks flushed, tumbled out of the car, backpack slung over her shoulder. "Grandpa!" she yelled, running towards the porch. Arthur's face transformed. The lines softened, the eyes brightened, and a genuine smile bloomed. He rose from the swing, the granite statue suddenly animated. "Lilybug," he said, his voice warm with affection. "You're late." "Sorry, Grandpa. Coach kept us running extra laps." She threw her arms around him, and he hugged her tightly. Martha watched them, a wistful smile on her face. There was so much love hidden beneath that gruff exterior. She just needed to find the key to unlock it. Lemonade and long division. Arthur Abernathy tapped his foot against the warped porch planking. 5 minutes. Lily was 5 minutes late. He consulted his watch again, a grim frown etching itself deeper into the lines around his mouth. The afternoon sun beat down on the street, turning the air thick and heavy. He loosened his tie, wishing he hadn't agreed to this charity case. "Penny for your thoughts, Arthur?" Martha Bellwether's voice, sweet as honeysuckle, drifted from the doorway. She emerged onto the porch, a small watering can in her hand. You look like you're about to solve the national debt with a rusty nail. Arthur grunted. Just waiting. Lily, I presume? Martha chuckled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. She's a whirlwind, that one. Worth the wait, though. And besides, she winked, I've got a feeling she needs all the help she can get with those numbers. His frown didn't lessen. Math should be straightforward. Logical. Not whatever it is she makes of it. Martha chuckled again, watering a pot of petunias. Well, perhaps a different perspective is all she needs. Just then, Lily came tearing around the corner, her backpack bouncing against her spine. Mr. Abernathy! Sorry I'm late. I had to detour. Arthur resisted the urge to launch into a lecture. One look at her flushed face, and he sighed. All right, let's just get started. He pulled out a textbook from his briefcase. Long division. Page 72. Lily groaned, sinking into the wicker chair. Ugh. Long division is the worst. She opened the book with the enthusiasm of someone facing a firing squad. After 10 minutes of watching Lily mangle a perfectly simple equation, Arthur's frustration was simmering. Numbers swam on the page, obscured by her frantic scribbling. He pinched the bridge of his nose. Lily, you're missing the fundamental principle. You have to break it down step by step. Martha reappeared, a tray laden with glasses of lemonade and a plate of sugar cookies. Fuel for the brain, she announced, placing the tray on the small table between them. And Arthur, dear, try not to scare the poor girl. A little sugar never hurt anyone. The lemonade, tart and sweet, was surprisingly refreshing. He took a long sip, feeling some of the tension ease. Lily, meanwhile, attacked a cookie with gusto, crumbs clinging to her cheek. Okay, Arthur said, softening his tone slightly. Let's try this again. Think of it like sharing. You have a certain number of cookies, he gestured to the plate, and you want to divide them equally among a certain number of friends. He picked up a cookie and held it out. Now, if I have this one cookie, and I want to divide it between you and me. Martha leaned forward, watching intently. See, Lily? Arthur's making it fun. It's all about the cookies. Lily giggled, the sound like wind chimes. For the next hour, under Martha's gentle encouragement and Arthur's surprisingly patient explanations, Lily slowly began to grasp the concept. The sun shifted, casting long shadows across the porch. Even Arthur found himself enjoying the afternoon, the lemonade sweet on his tongue and the sound of Lily's occasional triumphant, "Oh, I get it," filling the air. Maybe this charity case wouldn't be so bad after all. Beyond the numbers. Lily gnawed at her pencil eraser, forehead creased in concentration as she wrestled with a particularly thorny word problem involving trains and their maddeningly disparate velocities. Arthur watched, the ghost of his usual impatience stirring. Beside him, Martha's needles clicked a steady rhythm as she worked on a vibrant purple scarf. So, he ventured, seeking a distraction. You mentioned reading. Anything capture your fancy lately? Martha's needles danced a few more times before she glanced up, a soft smile gracing her features. I revisited The Secret Garden. A perennial favorite. I always glean something new from its pages. Arthur chuckled, a playful spark in his gaze. Still tending to those green shoots, I see. Guilty, Martha admitted, laughter coloring her tone. And you? What holds your attention beyond balance sheets and bottom lines? History calls to me, Arthur confessed. Biographies, historical narratives. I just finished a compelling study of the Crimean War. Ah, the Crimean War! Florence Nightingale, the appalling blunders. Martha's eyes brightened. I devoured those encyclopedias as a girl, losing entire afternoons in their depths. I did the same, Arthur responded, a smile touching his lips. Summers at my grandmother's, lost in tales of explorers and empires. A shadow flickered across his face. Those days were golden. Lost in her calculations, Lily remained oblivious to their shared memories. The afternoon sun poured through the porch windows, laying bright rectangles across the well-worn floorboards. Martha's needles paused in their motion. You mentioned your wife passed some time ago, Arthur. If you don't mind my asking, what kind of woman was she? A fleeting sadness touched Arthur's features, but he didn't evade the question. Eleanor, she possessed a vibrant spirit. A painter, perpetually splashed with color, with an uncanny ability to perceive the world anew. She opened my eyes to details I'd have overlooked. He gestured toward Martha's garden, a faint smile returning. She would have found beauty here. Martha gave a slow nod, her expression sympathetic. Gardening offers me refuge. I find solace in it, a sense of connection to something greater than myself. I suspect we all crave that anchor, don't we? Likely true, Arthur murmured, his gaze drawn to a blooming rose. He felt the urge to confide in her about Eleanor, to share the bittersweet tapestry of their life together, the joy intertwined with the lingering ache. But he restrained himself. Suddenly, Lily slammed her pencil onto the table, startling them. Finally. Solved it, I think. She presented the paper to Arthur, her face radiant. He scrutinized her work, a genuine smile spreading across his face. Brilliant, Lily! You nailed it. As Lily launched into an enthusiastic explanation of her solution, Arthur met Martha's gaze. He saw a warmth that transcended mere courtesy. A novel feeling stirred within him, a connection he hadn't felt in what seemed like an age. This was more than just accounting. This felt like the genesis of something entirely new. Texting and teacups. Arthur stared at his phone, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Lily was late, again. 5 minutes morphed into 10, then 15. He was about to abandon ship when a text from Martha popped up. Sorry, Arthur, Lily's having a meltdown over fractions. Give us 5 more minutes? Here's a little something to tide you over. Attached was a picture of a fluffy Persian cat, Whiskers, wearing comically oversized sunglasses. Arthur snorted, a genuine smile cracking his usually stern face. He typed back. That cat has better style than I do. Martha responded instantly. He knows it. He's a regular diva. So riddle me this, what has an eye, but cannot see? He pondered for a moment, the frustration of waiting momentarily forgotten. A needle? He texted back. Bingo. You're sharper than Lily's pencils. Speaking of, she's ready. Brace yourself. The lessons were still a challenge, but Martha's presence had a calming effect. She mediated between his gruff explanations and Lily's easily frustrated sighs, translating his impatience into encouragement. By the end of the hour, Lily had grasped the basics of dividing fractions, and Arthur felt a surprising sense of accomplishment. As he walked to his car, another text from Martha arrived. Coffee tomorrow? My treat. The bakery on Elm Street. 10 a.m.? He hesitated. He hadn't had a proper date in, well, a long time. I would like that very much, he typed. That evening, a strange flutter filled Arthur's stomach. He found himself pacing his living room, something he hadn't done since his university days. He even ironed his shirt, a navy blue button-down he usually reserved for special occasions. Martha, meanwhile, stood in front of her china cabinet, a rainbow of teacups gleaming under the soft light. She ran a finger along the delicate rims, each cup holding a memory. The floral one her mother had given her. The simple white one she'd bought on her honeymoon. Finally, she settled on a cheerful yellow cup with a painted robin perched on its rim. It felt hopeful. She carefully placed it on a saucer, a tiny, anticipatory thrill bubbling within her. She imagined Arthur's large hands carefully holding it. Coffee and whispers. The aroma of cinnamon and roasted nuts hung heavy in the air as Arthur navigated the crowded bakery. He spotted Martha already seated at a small table near the window, a steaming mug in front of her. He'd been 10 minutes late, snagged by an unexpected call from his editor, and his apology tumbled out in a rush. Martha waved it off, her smile warm and genuine. Don't worry, Arthur. It gave me a chance to admire their pastry selection. Though I'm still overwhelmed. She gestured to the dizzying array of croissants, cakes, and cookies behind the glass counter. He chuckled, instantly feeling his earlier frustration melt away. I always go for the apple turnover. Can't go wrong with a classic. He ordered one, along with a black coffee, and settled into the chair opposite her. The conversation flowed easily. They talked about Lily's progress, or lack thereof, with fractions, then drifted to Arthur's writing, and finally, to Martha's passion for gardening. He found himself genuinely interested in the intricacies of rose pruning, something he would have previously dismissed as utterly boring. You make it sound almost poetic, he admitted, swirling the remaining coffee in his cup. Martha's eyes twinkled. Everything is poetic if you look at it the right way, Arthur. Even fractions, I suppose? He laughed, a full, unrestrained sound that surprised him. He hadn't realized how much he needed this. A simple conversation, a shared laugh, a connection that felt effortless. He noticed the way the morning sun caught the silver strands in her hair, the gentle crinkles around her eyes when she smiled. Across the street, Lily skipped along the sidewalk, her eyes scanning the bakery window. A wide grin spread across her face when she spotted Arthur and Martha inside, heads bent together in conversation, both laughing. She waved, but they were too engrossed to notice. Beaming, she tugged on her mother's hand. Mom! Look! Sarah, preoccupied with a grocery list, followed Lily's gaze. Her eyebrows furrowed as she took in the scene inside the bakery. Martha and Arthur, close enough that their elbows almost touched, sharing a coffee and laughing? She hadn't pictured their tutoring sessions involving such joviality. A knot tightened in her stomach. Lily, oblivious to her mother's sudden shift in mood, continued to chatter excitedly. They look like they're having so much fun. Maybe Mr. Abernathy is finally making fractions interesting. Sarah forced a smile, but it felt brittle and unnatural. Maybe, she said, her voice tight. As they entered the grocery store, Lily's chatter faded into background noise. Sarah's mind raced, piecing together fragments of conversations, late-night text she'd overheard, and now, this unexpected coffee date. A seed of suspicion, planted weeks ago, began to sprout, its tendrils wrapping around her heart. Was she overreacting? Probably. But the image of her mother, laughing with Arthur Abernathy, lingered in her mind, a persistent and unsettling whisper. Worried whispers. He's just Arthur, Sarah said, twisting the dish towel in her hands until the fabric was a tight rope. He's charming, I'll give him that. But charming and reliable are two very different things, Lily. Lily sighed, meticulously arranging sliced tomatoes on a platter. Mother is a grown woman, Sarah. She's entitled to a little charming in her life, don't you think? Of course she is. But is this charming worth the risk? He's so much younger, Lily. And what do we really know about him? He just sort of appeared. Lily placed the platter on the kitchen island with a gentle thud. He's Lily's tutor. He's kind to her. He makes Mother happy. Isn't that enough? Sarah crossed her arms, her jaw tight. Happy now, maybe. But what about later? What happens when he gets bored? Mother will be devastated. You're jumping to conclusions, Lily protested, but a flicker of worry crossed her face. Sunday dinner was always a boisterous affair, but today, a heavy undercurrent of unease hummed beneath the surface. The aroma of roast chicken and rosemary potatoes usually filled the air with warmth, but today, the scent seemed muted, almost bland. So, Arthur tells me Lily is making great progress, Martha announced, beaming. She looked radiant, her cheeks flushed with a youthful glow Sarah hadn't seen in years. That's great, Mom, David mumbled, his eyes glued to his plate. Sarah cleared her throat. Speaking of Arthur, has anyone actually looked into him? You know, just to be sure? A hush fell over the table. Lily shot Sarah a sharp glare. Sarah! Martha exclaimed, her smile faltering. Really? Is that necessary? I just think we should be cautious, Sarah insisted, her voice rising slightly. We don't want anyone taking advantage of you, Mom. I am perfectly capable of taking care of myself, thank you, Martha said, her voice laced with steel. She pushed her plate away, the clatter of the china echoing in the sudden silence. Martha rose abruptly. "Excuse me," she said, her back ramrod straight, and walked towards the hallway. Sarah watched her go, a wave of guilt washing over her. She hadn't meant to upset her mother, but the words had tumbled out, fueled by a deep-seated fear she couldn't quite articulate. She remembered her father, solid and dependable, his love a constant presence in their lives. Arthur was nothing like him. As Martha reached the hallway, she paused near the doorway to the dining room, unseen. She overheard Sarah say, "I just don't want to see her get hurt. After everything she's been through." Martha closed her eyes, a sharp pang of hurt twisting in her chest. Was that all they thought of her? A fragile old woman incapable of making her own choices? She turned and continued towards the back porch, the screen door slamming shut behind her with a quiet thud. The lesson ceased. The words felt like lead in Arthur's mouth. He watched Lily meticulously erase a stray mark on her drawing of a fantastical bird, its plumage a riot of greens and blues. He should be correcting her perspective, pushing her to add more detail, but the image of Sarah's furious face kept intruding. "Lily," he began, his voice rougher than he intended. She looked up, her brow furrowed with concentration. "Yes, Mr. Abernathy? I won't be able to tutor you any more." Her hand stilled, the eraser hovering above the paper. The vibrant colors of her bird seemed to dim in the sudden silence. "Why?" Arthur shifted uncomfortably. "Things have come up. I'm just too busy." A lie, of course, a pathetic, cowardly lie. Lily's lower lip trembled slightly. "But I was getting better. Martha said so." He couldn't meet her gaze. "You are getting better, Lily. You're a very talented girl. But it's just not going to work out." He swallowed hard, the guilt a bitter taste in his mouth. "Here." He pushed a small, brightly wrapped package across the table. "A little something to remember me by." He left quickly, before she could open the gift or ask any more questions. The scent of crayons and Lily's youthful optimism clung to him as he walked back to his car, a shroud of remorse settling over his shoulders. Later that afternoon, Martha found Lily slumped on the porch swing, her face buried in a sketchbook. The unopened gift lay beside her. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Martha asked, settling beside her. Lily sniffled, lifting her head. "Mr. Abernathy isn't coming anymore." Martha's heart sank. She'd looked forward to Arthur's visits, to their shared laughter and the quiet moments of connection. It had been a bright spot in her increasingly solitary days. "He's not." "Why not?" "He said he was too busy." Lily's voice was small, laced with disappointment. Martha wrapped an arm around her granddaughter, pulling her close. "I'm so sorry, darling. I know how much you enjoyed your lessons." The following days were quiet. Martha missed Arthur's presence acutely. The porch felt emptier, the afternoons longer. She found herself staring out at the street, half expecting to see his familiar car pull up. Even the hummingbirds seemed less vibrant. Sarah, usually preoccupied with work and household chores, noticed the change in her mother. Martha, normally cheerful and energetic, seemed subdued, her laughter less frequent. "Mama, are you all right?" Sarah asked one evening as they cleared the dinner table. Martha sighed, stacking the plates. "Just a little tired, dear." Sarah frowned, unconvinced. "It's more than that. You've been moping around all week. What's wrong?" Martha hesitated, then relented. "Arthur. Mr. Abernathy isn't tutoring Lily anymore." Sarah's expression hardened. "Good. It was inappropriate to begin with. But Lily was learning so much, and I enjoyed his company," Martha admitted quietly, avoiding her daughter's disapproving gaze. Sarah's lips tightened. "See? I knew it. You were getting too attached, Mama. He's a younger man. This is for the best." She reached out and took Martha's hand, her grip firm. "Don't worry. We'll find Lily another tutor. Someone more suitable." A daughter's understanding. Lily trailed Sarah like a shadow, her small hand tugging at the hem of Sarah's skirt. "Please, Sarah? Just talk to him. He's nice." Sarah sighed, stacking plates in the dishwasher with unnecessary force. "Nice isn't enough, Lily. Mom deserves more than nice." The clatter of the plates echoed in the small kitchen. "But he makes her happy." Lily's voice rose in frustration, mirroring Sarah's own. "I see it. You just have to look." Sarah stopped, turning to face her daughter. Lily's eyes, so much like Martha's, were pleading. Guilt twisted in Sarah's stomach. She knew she was being stubborn, driven by a protective instinct she couldn't quite control. "Okay," she conceded, the word feeling heavy on her tongue. "I'll talk to him. But don't expect miracles." The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the porch as Arthur patiently explained fractions to Lily. Sarah watched from the living room window, her arms crossed. Arthur looked comfortable. Too comfortable, perhaps. He was laughing at something Lily said, his face crinkled at the corners of his eyes. Taking a deep breath, Sarah walked onto the porch. Arthur immediately stood up, a flicker of apprehension in his eyes. Lily, sensing the shift in atmosphere, quietly slipped inside. "Arthur," Sarah began, her voice sharper than she intended. "Can we talk?" He nodded, gesturing to a wicker chair. "Of course, Sarah." Sarah sat, the wicker creaking beneath her. The air was thick with the scent of honeysuckle and unspoken anxieties. "I need to understand what you want, Arthur. With my mom." He hesitated, then met her gaze directly. "I care about Martha, Sarah. A lot. She's remarkable. And Lily, too. She's a bright spark." Sarah searched his face for any hint of deception, any flicker of insincerity. She saw none. Just a quiet sincerity that disarmed her. "You understand she's vulnerable?" Arthur nodded slowly. "I do. And I would never do anything to hurt her. Or Lily. I know I haven't known her for very long. But it feels like I've known her my whole life." A robin landed on the porch railing, chirping a cheerful melody. Sarah watched it, then looked back at Arthur. "She's happy, isn't she?" A genuine smile spread across Arthur's face. "Happier than I've seen her in a long time." Sarah remembered the lightness in her mother's voice, the way her eyes sparkled when she talked about their coffee dates. The small, thoughtful gifts Arthur had given her: a book of poetry, a packet of her favorite tea. She had dismissed them as trivial, but now she saw them for what they were, gestures of genuine affection. She saw, too, the way Arthur interacted with Lily. He was patient, kind, and genuinely interested in what she had to say. He wasn't just tutoring her, he was connecting with her. "Thank you," Sarah said, the words feeling surprisingly difficult to voice. "For being good to them." Arthur's smile softened. "They deserve it, Sarah." As Sarah walked back inside, she paused by the window. Arthur had returned to his tutoring, his voice gentle as he guided Lily through a problem. Martha stood in the doorway, watching them, a soft smile gracing her lips. The sunlight caught the silver strands in her hair, illuminating her face with a quiet radiance. For the first time, Sarah allowed herself to truly see it, the happiness that Arthur had brought into her mother's life. And in that moment, a knot of tension that she hadn't even realized she was carrying began to loosen. Porch swings and new beginnings. The aroma of roasting chicken and simmering green beans wafted from the Miller house, a beacon on Sunday afternoon. Arthur, clutching a bottle of surprisingly decent Merlot he'd picked up at the corner store, felt a tremor of nerves he hadn't experienced since asking Beatrice to dance at the senior center social. Sarah had hesitantly extended the invitation after a particularly successful tutoring session where Lily had finally grasped the concept of fractions. He adjusted his tie, a relic from his days at the insurance firm, and climbed the porch steps. Martha, already seated in her usual rocker, beamed. "Arthur! Right on time. Come in, come in." The dining room was a kaleidoscope of noise and warmth. Children shrieked with laughter, silverware clattered against china, and Sarah, her face flushed from the heat of the oven, directed the chaos with practiced efficiency. Her husband, David, a man built like a bear but with a gentle smile, clapped Arthur on the shoulder. "Glad to have you, Arthur. Martha's been singing your praises." The meal was a boisterous affair, punctuated by Lily's enthusiastic explanations of polynomials and Arthur's dry wit. He found himself drawn into the family's orbit, their easy banter and shared history a comforting hum. Even Sarah, initially reserved, softened as the afternoon wore on, sharing stories of Lily's early childhood and her own struggles with algebra. By the time he left, the Merlot bottle empty and his stomach full, Arthur felt a lightness he hadn't realized he'd been missing. He walked Martha back to her house, the twilight painting the sky in hues of orange and violet. "That was pleasant," he admitted, a hint of surprise in his voice. Martha chuckled. "Pleasant? Arthur Abernathy, you're losing your touch with words. It was lovely. They like you, you know." The coffee dates resumed the following week, a comfortable rhythm settling between them. They discussed everything and nothing: current events, Lily's progress, the frustrating complexities of the local zoning laws. Arthur found himself looking forward to their conversations, to Martha's unwavering optimism, and the way her eyes crinkled when she laughed. One evening, as the fireflies began their nightly dance, Arthur and Martha found themselves on the miller's porch, the gentle sway of the swing a hypnotic rhythm. David, Sarah, and Lily joined them, drawn by the sound of their laughter. Lily, nestled between her parents, listened intently as Arthur recounted a particularly disastrous golf outing. He'd sliced his tee shot into a water hazard, nearly decapitating a flock of ducks. Sarah, instead of her usual concerned expression, threw her head back and laughed. Even David, the stoic observer, chuckled. The porch felt less like a barrier and more like a bridge, connecting their lives in unexpected ways. As the evening drew to a close, Lily, her face flushed with sleepiness, glanced at Martha and Arthur, their heads bent together in quiet conversation. A genuine smile touched her lips, a silent acknowledgement of the burgeoning friendship that had blossomed amidst algebra equations and porch swings. This unlikely friendship had brought something special into all of their lives, something warm and comforting, like a mug of hot cocoa on a chilly evening. It was a new beginning for everyone, a testament to the power of connection, regardless of age or circumstance.